All right, guys. So last night, AVL told me about this story that I'm going to cover. And I'm mentioning this because I got to get credit where credit is due when people tell me about these stories. Just like when you guys send me stories, I always mention that, hey, one of you guys sent me this story. And I like when people do that because it makes my job easier, right? To find this stuff that's interesting to talk about. But this story right here is about a guaranteed income program offered to just black women in Georgia. And the amount is $850 a month that's going to just black women. Now, I want to say something real quick before I get into this, okay? And the reason why is because I feel like there's a stigma that goes against conservatives, and there's not even just conservatives, but people in the manosphere. I don't really consider myself to be a part of that, or the red pill community, where they feel like, you just hate on women, or, more specifically, you hate on black women. And I just want to say this. My opinions about this program and this article would be the exact same if this program was offered to white women, white men, Hispanic women, Asian women, Asian men. It would be literally the exact same, right? So I just want people to understand my opinions on this. It's just not in reference to black women, okay, in regards to this whole universal basic income thing. Now, the arguments that this article is going to make is going to be about black women, and it might be specific to that, but I'm just saying I would feel the exact same way about this program if it was offered to any other specific group. I just want to say that up front, okay, because I feel like a lot of people think that conservatives, or particularly men, right, are just out here hating on black women, right? And that's not the case, okay? That's not the case. Now, in regards to this program, this is a part of a larger effort that is going on around the country, in which you have a ton of these cities, these nonprofits, these entities that are experimenting with UBI. Now, I know a lot of people, particularly conservatives, have sour on UBI based off what has happened in the past year or two in regards to stimulus checks, the expanded unemployment benefits, and how they feel like it has contributed to the inflation crisis that we're currently experiencing right now. And in my opinion, I think we already have a pretty broad social safety net, okay? And I think that adding a UBI cash payments on top of that is a bad idea, right? I don't like that idea. However, I will say this about UBI. If the government decided to significantly decrease the social safety net, get rid of mostly all of it, and decided, hey, you know what, instead of us deciding what we want to do with your money as the government, here's your money and you decide what you want to do with it, then I would be cool with it, okay? Because I think people can decide what they should do with their tax money better than the government, right? I think that's a lot more efficient. I would be cool with that, as long as illegal immigrants don't get any. So that's my general opinions on UBI in general. I think that adding it on top of an already robust social safety net, in my opinion, is a bad idea. Okay, I don't think that actually solves the problem. So let's go ahead and get into this article and discuss this program here. Despite working multiple jobs, many black women are still struggling with poverty and low incomes. A new program in Georgia will provide up to 650 black women in the state who live near or below the poverty line with $850 in cash, no strings attached, to help ease their financial burdens, HuffPost reports. All right, so up front, okay, this is why I have a problem when it comes to a lot of these programs. A lot of these programs are just clearly discriminatory. Now, I know some of these programs are, not necessarily government institutions. They are private sector, they're nonprofit, stuff like that. But in my opinion, even if this works, how in the world are you supposed to get other people on board with this if you're simply just handing money to a specific group of people as if their problems are only unique to them, right? Are there not white people living in poverty in Georgia that may need help, right? Or Hispanic people that's living in poverty that need help? I mean, in fact, 11% of white people in Georgia live in poverty, right? 23% of Latinos in Georgia live in poverty, right? So, I mean, again, in my opinion, why just black women? If you're doing an experiment and you're trying to collect information and data, right? You have 650 people participating in this. Why would you not want to make it as diverse as possible? Okay, what happened to so-called equitable distribution? In the sense that, isn't it supposed to match the population numbers, right? What happened to that? What happened to that? And if that was the case, then most of this money would go to white people, right? Because they're about 60% of the population. And then the next would be Latinos, and then 13% of the population being black, and then Asian, or whatever, right? You would think that would actually be more useful for figuring out how this program could work if you scaled it, right? You would think that would be more useful. But for whatever reason, they just wanted to go to black women, right? And again, I think, in my opinion, that's just inherently divisive. And I think it makes people automatically discredit what you're trying to do right offhand. The program, called In Her Hands, will launch early 2022 and distribute more than $13 million. This would make it one of the largest guaranteed income pilot programs in the U.S., according to HuffPost. In Her Hands is backed by GiveDirectly and the Georgia Resilience and Opportunity Fund, an Atlanta-based coalition based on social justice. Okay, yeah, so it makes sense, right? This is a social justice thing, okay? Providing cash to struggling individuals and families proved beneficial during the pandemic. For instance, a University of Michigan study found that the federal stimulus checks substantially reduced hardship, including a sharp decline in food shortage, financial instability, and anxiety, the New York Times reported in June. According to the study, food insufficiency fell by 40%, financial instability fell by 45%, and adverse mental health symptoms fell by 20%. The bottom line, show black women where the money resides. Again, keep in mind, this is written by Essence here, okay? I'm just saying, 80% of black women are breadwinners for their families, whether they are the sole earners or they provide at least 40% of their household's income. Without adequate incomes for black women, entire families can struggle. And herein lies the problem. Herein lies the problem. The problem is that why is it that 80% of black women are breadwinners in their families? Okay, because they're single. They're not married. They've had kids out of wedlock, right? Again, that's the real problem that you need to be addressing. And that doesn't just apply to black women. That applies to women of all races, right? If a woman is the breadwinner in the household, you got to ask yourself, why is that? Okay, is it because maybe she's more educated, or maybe she has a better job or whatever than the man, or is it because it's a single parent household, right? That's what you got to ask yourself. That's the key question here. Because in a functional and traditional household, most likely the man is going to be the breadwinner, right? And the poverty rate for married couples for black people is less than 10%. It's funny how that works. Maybe traditional conservative values are actually the key to financial stability and building generational wealth. Maybe incentivizing people to marry the government, which is what a lot of our social safety net programs have done. They've basically made the man expendable. And in my opinion, this program is essentially trying to do that. They're making the man expendable. This is what it's created, right? It has created a culture in which you have not just black women, because black women aren't the only people that experience this, in which women feel like they don't necessarily need a man, right? I don't need a man, okay? I can do it on my own, while at the same time putting themselves in situations where they're having kids out of wedlock that puts them in financial hardship. And again, this is a behavioral issue that needs to be solved. It's not necessarily an issue that the government can say, here's a check, we're going to fix this for you, when the real issue lies in behavior, okay? As employers on average have failed to provide wages that keep up with the cost of living, many black women work more than in years past and still struggle to maintain a high quality of life. Black women are, in fact, more likely than anyone else to work more jobs than they did a decade ago, according to a 2016 study. Again, why is that, right? Why is that? Is it because 64% of black children are living in single parent households? I think that is actually the issue here, right? That's actually the real issue. And I'm not saying all this other stuff hasn't applied. I'm just saying, I think that is the fundamental problem. In a statement, Hope Wollensack, executive director of the GRO Fund, said black women are among the most likely groups to experience cash shortfalls that make covering basic needs difficult. Financial difficulty and income inequity aren't because of poor choices. Wrong, Wollensack said. Rather, it is a result of pervasive economic insecurity that has the sharpest impact on women and community colors and the people who live at the intersection of the two. Again, I love how these people frame this as if, well, it's not a result of bad choices, right? People don't make bad choices, okay? And the bad decisions have nothing to do with this. And in my opinion, that argument is just so disingenuous. Because again, when the data suggests, again, that if you are married, which is a decision, then again, the poverty rate is less than 10%. But when you talk about being a single black mother in particular, then the poverty rate is almost 30%. Now, again, that's not to say that everybody has to get married or whatever, you can't be single. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is that if you choose not to and you're going to be single, then you want to make sure you're not having kids while you're single or having kids out of wedlock if you want to reduce your chances of being in poverty, right? All these things are decisions. So when you start talking about black women or women being breadwinners in the household and how they're struggling and blah, 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 well, again, you got to ask yourself, well, why is that? Okay, that's the real question. It all comes down to decisions. And, you know, when it comes to these universal basic income programs, a lot of these institutions are experimenting with, you never see how there's a requirement for financial literacy. They never require financial literacy, which in my opinion is much more important and much more useful than giving somebody money. Because I can give somebody money all day, but if they don't know how to spend it, they don't know how to invest it, then that money is going to be useless. It's not going to mean anything, right? We've seen all the lottery winners that win the lottery, they become millionaires, they get a life-changing amount of money, and then they're broke in a few years because they spend it all. They didn't know how to invest it. We see it all the time with athletes. Again, those are decisions, okay? Those are decisions. And people want to talk about, well, you know, the reason why these disparities exist in terms of generational wealth and blah, 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 the wealth gap is because of what happened in the past. Well, listen, I'm here to tell you something. We're living in the 21st century. We're living in 2021. Everybody has the same opportunities to build wealth in today's society, right? Everybody has equal access to the stock market. Everybody has access to the real estate market. And if you do face some discrimination, then you can find somebody else to help you out, right? Because somebody sent me an article about a black couple that had their house appraised. And apparently one of the first appraisers, who was a white woman, had undervalued the house by like $500,000. Now, this couple spent years renovating this home, and it did not get the proper appraisal until they actually had a white friend stand in for them to act like they owned the house instead. And then all of a sudden, the house, again, the value went up by $500,000. Now, again, somebody was like, oh, this is an example of systemic racism. This is an example of what black people have to go through. This is why black people can't build wealth like white folks. And my rebuttal to that is that, well, listen, here's the thing. They're suing that woman, right, which is a right that they have, okay, to say that, hey, there was discrimination here, okay, that they violated this law, that law, whatever, right? And then two, if you don't like the appraiser, go find another one, right? Go get another one. Because in my opinion, I believe in the free market. And if the house was actually worth more than $500,000 more, then somebody would have paid for that, right? Somebody would have paid for it, okay? If that's what it was actually worth. So, you know, with that being said, I mean, people try to point out stuff like that and to try to use that as an excuse for, well, why black people can't do this, why they can't do this. And I'm like, no, that's not an excuse. You have to overcome. And again, we live in a society now when it comes to technology where everybody has equal access to the greatest wealth building tools in our society. Look at cryptocurrency. I was literally reading an article about how black people are pouring money into crypto. Okay? People are literally becoming millionaires overnight investing in crypto. Now, a lot of them are getting real lucky, and a lot of people are losing money going broke. But I'm just saying, in general, if you're smart about it, if you stick to the currencies that, you know, seem to have the highest market caps, that are the most legitimate ones, there's a chance that you could substantially build your wealth quickly, right? Way faster than the market over time, right? Now, there's always risk. There's elevated risk when it comes to crypto. But I'm just saying, you have equal access to that like everybody else does. The tools are there today, but a lot of people want to focus on what happened in the past instead of focusing on moving forward today and making the right decisions to level the playing field, because the opportunities are there. You just have to arm yourself with knowledge. And that's why financial literacy and making good decisions is so important. Again, in my opinion, if you, get married, right? Don't have kids out of wedlock, make good financial decisions, you'll be fine. And if you choose not to get married, you're single or whatever, then don't have kids out of wedlock again, make good financial decisions, you'll be fine, right? And also living below your means. Throw that in there too. You can compete with anybody. You don't need the government to hand you money or some nonprofit or whatever to give you a universal basic income to compete. And it's funny how they never want to talk about the role of personal responsibility in all this. Because again, you can give somebody all the money in the world, but if they don't have the knowledge or the discipline to make that work, then it's not going to help them at all. They're still going to be in the same exact situation, which is why we have these issues with poverty, even though we already have these government programs in place to fight poverty. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.